Alright, I hope you're in for a long one because I'm going to finish this up. I've been ready for this to be over. I've just been wanting to address every factual basis behind every claim and feat shown. And this will be the finale, so to speak. But after this, what I plan to do is essentially make it so that I will do one last thing covering essentially the debate. I will gather together everything said across all of them and compile it into a single video with everything addressed in that video. But it'll be heavily edited. That's why I did all these videos, is so that it was as unedited as possible, right? Then what I plan to do is essentially I'll have this be pretty much the last of the things that I care about doing for Comic Vine. Make the video, make a big mega post, and essentially a big respect thread for Yu Hakusho, so that's no longer downplayed, at least as much. And we'll go from there. And hopefully everybody can use the video, and perhaps even just the respect thread itself that will have the video and everything, for any future talking points or any needed feats or scaling to ever throw out for pretty much any given thing revolving around Yu Hakusho. Before I get to that fully, I will probably do the B class and down scaling so that can be wrapped up in there too. But those two will be after this video here, and then I will get into other things. But with that, I hope you guys enjoy.
I mean, it doesn't really matter regardless. What I need you to prove is how much stronger is Yusuke currently compared to Sensui. Like, you have to show me, like...
Okay, yeah.
Facts. Yeah, just...
Alright, let's go for numbers. I didn't know that you were... Alright, well...
Yeah, because this is going on kind of long. I just want to...
Sorry.
Power potency so we can get onto speed.
So, here's Kurama in his human form. After they had already gone past Sensui. I'm not going to say that he's definitely S-Class here. It would make sense, but you can't fully prove it for sure. However, we know that Hokushin is a PL of 36,000. And this is Yoko Kurama at 152,000, which is an 80 times increase to his total PL, not his stats. He is also the weakest of the main cast, well, minus Kuwabara, actually. He's weaker than Yusuke here, or Hiei, by a lot. And he would... Oh, in terms of, like, him transforming into, transforming Ryzen mode versus, Sensui, and then not, like, killing him with his aura, we actually don't know what the boost was. We simply know that Ryzen possessing him allowed Yusuke to use all of his actual power and not, like... Because he didn't know how to use his power. He was still getting used to it. And Ryzen possessed him and was like, let me show you how to actually use your power. And I even have author statements since other people care about that confirmed that he was just Ryzen allowed him to use his own actual power that he already had. If you want to say that Kuwabara's statement about it is true, and that Yusuke going Ryzen mode was actually 1,000,000 times more powerful, because that's what Kuwabara says, that would only help my case. But otherwise, I would say...
I mean, in my opinion, it would hurt your case, because it proves getting 1,000,000 times stronger barely changed anything.
I mean, all I would have to say is that would be a feat scaling for durability of the S-Class. It would be kind of weird, since, yeah, that doesn't seem to make as much sense. But at the same time, if we're just going to take that, then I can take Beheaded Hill feat, and now I can apply it times 1,000,000.
Definitely a hyperbole. I'm just saying I think that statement would hurt you. I wouldn't accept that statement, because he obviously didn't get millions of times stronger.
Well, I'm saying it would hurt and help, because, okay, then they can't vape them by being that much stronger, but now I can apply that to Beheaded Hill feat and just say he's millions of times that. That already, okay, now they're like beyond just planetary level at that point. So regardless, that's a moot point. We both disagree. The 1,000,000 times doesn't need to be addressed. In which case, we don't need to consider why he didn't vape him with his aura.
but he did basically one-shot him with his demon gun. But anyways, Yoko Kurama, 152,000. Hokushin, who is the bald monk guy who follows Yusuke around, was 36,000, and was the next weakest that we see for S-Class. For Sensui, we have no idea what he technically was. A lot of things like Versus Battle Wiki take him at like 20,000. Really, there's no way to tell. But he really could even be less than Kurama's human mode there at 1,902. But he's definitely below 36,000. Yoko's at 152,000.
Do we have a confirmed fact that he's weaker than that guy? Like a confirmed statement?
We have several statements that would more so like make it almost undeniable, but not technically truly undeniable. He is Hokushin was the second-hand man of Ryzen, and all the second-hand people are the second strongest of their respective countries. So Ryzen's country had Ryzen in the millions of PL, and his second strongest was Hokushin at 36,000. He was an S-Class. He wouldn't have really even have been the only one necessarily, but maybe. But there's almost no reason to take him as weaker than Sensui. He also was shown... Oh yeah, never mind. He straight up fights... He fights the same Yusuke who, was at least Sensui's level and bodies him as he trains with him for months on end. So yeah, he's verbatim stronger. Just with actual fighting feats. Yeah, I forgot about that.
But didn't he say that Yusuke was actually stronger than him, but he was just way better at fighting or something?
No, maybe you're mixing up when he, like, had the limiter on him, and he's
that was in the human world, I guess.
And he was actually like, I'm better than you, but then Yusuke's like, you remember anyways, no, when they actually went to Demon World and he could fight at full power, he was better than Yusuke.
Yeah, but I mean, he was beating him in the human world as well, so do we know for a fact he actually surpassed Yusuke in power, or he just evened the playing field and he was so much more skilled that he basically treated him like a baby?
Well, no, so when he beat... I'm doing air quotes, by the way. When he beat Yusuke in Human World, where his power was lowered all the way to D class, mind you, Yusuke clearly showed that he wasn't actually trying. And if I need to bring up the feats, sure. But if memory serves, he basically just takes him up on his challenge. He's like, sure. And he gets outdone, outplayed, or, outfought, so to speak. However, when he's like, there, okay, you've learned your lesson, he says something that pisses off Yusuke, in which case, he blitzes Hokushin, while lower powered, of course, blitzes Hokushin, and completely, knocks him away, and Hokushin's like, yeah, he could have, easily killed me. And Yusuke's like, I could have turned you to butter, at any time. You would also, if it helps, he also did the same thing against Sensui. If you remember, Sensui went into Kazuya, personality, where he had the gun, and he's, beating Yusuke, senseless, and shooting him up and everything. He's getting all injured, and it's like, dang, he's stronger than Yusuke. And then he, Yusuke gets back up, and, actually, they're fighting over the pacifier. Yusuke gets back up, and he's like, no, actually, I'm gonna body you. And he's like, boy, get out of here, I'm way stronger than you. And he's like, no, I'm actually gonna body you. And he's like, oh, I see you healed from, you have Genkai's talents and all that stuff, because he has regen, of course. In which case, Yusuke proceeds to absolutely massacre that same person he was getting beaten by, just because he was actually trying harder. He kind of does this quite a few times through the series. Pretty much everything would point that he's stronger than Yusuke. Again, they also trained together, for months on end, and it required months of him.
Could easily beat a guy who should easily be able to beat Sensui. Do we have anything beyond that? Any, confirmed power level for Yusuke or anything like that? Or someone along his tier?
What, at the time of Sensui, or at the end?
At his prime.
No, simply, so, not fully confirmed, but he, Here we go. So Yomi is talking about raising his son to 500,000 before the deadline for the tournament, which was a whole year's worth of prep for the Demon World tournament. And Yusuke says, I'm about at the level of Yomi's son Shura.
Okay, so we can assume he's around 500,000.
Yeah.
Okay, and we know Sensui's less than 36,000 or whatever, so
Yes.
he's slightly over 10 times stronger, basically, then, probably, around that.
10 times would be just in the 300,000s.
Well, yeah, more than that, but in the tens of times range.
However, I would say it's his PL is that, not stats.
Okay, well, I mean, I understand where you're coming from with Toguro's bad math, but...
Oof, alright, so starting off, or rather ending that part with the LOL Toguro bad math meme. But from the top here, we're covering Sensui's PL being between 1,092, 1,902 from human Kurama, and like 32,000 for Hokushin. Now, if we're talking about being as accurate and consistent as possible, as always, what would Sensui's PL be? It could obviously be under Kurama's PL, given that this is the whole next season. They've all shown like months of getting stronger, and he's training to Kurama's like at that PL is essentially training to take over for the second in command, which are all supposed to be, you know, the next strongest, yada yada. However, at the same time, that's not really too fair, because we have to understand that for Yomi, he valued Kurama beyond just his strength, and secondarily, he was stronger than I forgot his name, fish head guy, but only in Yoko form. So he doesn't necessarily. It's not like Yomi required him to be stronger in human form. So it makes sense either way. AK, if there's a way to be more accurate, then we ought to do that, and that means we need to make it higher than that. If we're trying to debate the point or make it as accurate as possible, rather. We know it's less than 32,000, and most sites take him to be approximately around 20,000, given how... I kind of agree with the 20,000, to be honest. I believe that's a pretty good, fair number. If you're talking about the degree of difference in power between what Hokushin can show to Yusuke that Yusuke could show to Sensui. So, I would have him about 20,000. Now, secondarily, another point brought up is, I want to make it clear is, Raizen merely allowed for Yusuke to use his own full power. He didn't borrow an ounce of power from Raizen himself. I will show the actual author statement for those who care about that, where it's he actually confirms it. So let me just give you a second here to be able to look over that. Give myself some time to actually post it into the vid. And yeah, so you can see that when he transformed, that wasn't like Raizen possessed him and gave him any of his own power. He was simply unlocking Yusuke to use his own full power. So that difference in power that Yusuke transformed in was still just simply him going from the weakest S class to the weakest S class. He didn't jump up to being... Some people think that possessed Raizen Yusuke nears Raizen's level. It's not even close. It's just not. It's simply that he got a small boost overall in total power because his end of series self is much more powerful, and that's just the gaps in power as always shown. Now, then we have we talk about the statement of Kuwabara saying that Yusuke was 1,000,000 times more powerful when transformed. It's yeah, LOL, it's hyperbole. And the thing is we'll come back to this repeatedly, but It's hyperbole based on what? Well, obviously he didn't show to get millions of times more powerful. It's like, well, how do you know? How do you know he wasn't toying with him? He kind of seemed like he was. How do you know he wasn't holding back? How do you know this? How do you know that? You're trying to reach into what you think author's intent is, which is why I try to stay away from that. It actually happens a lot throughout the entire debate, where anytime statements are brought up, he has his interpretation of what he thinks the author intends by a given statement. Oh, the light fang, it says it's light speed, but also undodgeable. Well, the undodgeable part is hyperbole. Obviously, that part must be hyperbole, but the light speed can't be. That's a very specific interpretation you seem to be having of what you think the author intended by that statement. That's why I say, in my opinion, if it doesn't have the feats and scaling, throw it out. The other stuff is cool, but it needs to have some basis in feats and scaling. Then everything else is extra icing on the cake. So, in the same way we go LOL, Kuwabara's statement of him being a million times stronger is hyperbole. That's what I say about literally pretty much all of the statements that don't have feats or scaling for Yu Hakusho and Naruto, which is why it hurts Naruto so much, because they just don't have the feats or scaling to suggest pretty much any of their statements. Now, does it hurt or help the case? Well, let's go over a couple things with Yu Hakusho scaling. This would be a pseudo outlier for all of the feats that show how the scaling works otherwise, if it was to go against the scaling, since it would accurately so be one moment of scaling working this way compared to every other moment. That said, it would indeed go against the scaling of Yu Hakusho. But then you could just say, fine, it doesn't scale that way. And Beheaded Hill, he literally is now millions of times that, and he's like large planetary just as the lowest S class. It would just make Yu Hakusho stronger, but it's hyperbole, man. Drop it. It's hyperbole just like all of those Naruto statements. Or any other statements that follows that same level of scrutiny. It's not that it is hyperbolic. It's not that X given statement in Naruto can't be what it's claimed. It's just that there's no feats or scaling to prove that it is. Just as you can't say for real that he didn't get a million times stronger. What if I read into the author's intent and I take it as if he did get a million times stronger? You can't possibly prove me wrong. You just say, oh, that doesn't seem as consistent. How about just not having any feats or scaling at all? That doesn't seem consistent. Anyways, now one of the last parts is Yusuke lost to Hokushin when he was like D class and yada yada yada. I talked about Yusuke jobbing apparently, or obviously. Does Yusuke job? And by those who don't understand what I mean by jobbing, is basically losing when you shouldn't, appearing much weaker than you actually are. Yeah, Yusuke jobs a lot, actually. Now, against Hokushin, as I explained, it wasn't until he got pissed where he was like, nah, dog, step back. I could actually kill you at any moment, which makes sense. But he shouldn't have been caught in the first place, but he was holding back to unknown degree, or whatever the case. As we've seen him do against, as I brought up as well, Kazuya personality from Sensui, where, you know, he was getting absolutely destroyed, he gets healed up, stands up, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna destroy you now. And he's like, no, I'm way stronger. And Yusuke's like, no, alright, you're gonna have to learn the hard way. I've literally changed nothing, I'm just gonna try harder. Right? That's Yusuke in a nutshell. I mean, the entire sniper fight was him essentially jobbing, where he goes from, oh man, I'm threatened by things that shouldn't ever threaten me, to, okay, let me fight Hiei nearly on par. And then they both take out those B-class demons that land next to Hiei and Yusuke before I think they like fist bump or something, I don't know. But to be fair, however, for Yusuke jobbing against Sniper obviously can, he puts his energy into his attacks. It's not like Yusuke was actually scared of blades of grass, right? Trucks don't actually drive themselves, right? Nor do they run over trees in the way they do and go through like mountainous terrain without ever slowing down. It's not like Yusuke essentially was threatened by normal weaponry or anything, to be fair. And just the main point is that Yusuke jobs. Now, the last point is the LOL Taguro bad math meme, which is what was ended on. Nice meme. Again, it's surely just said for the debate, because if the scaling is allowed, Yu Yu Hakusho destroys Naruto. But I'm sorry. On this one, for those listening, you can go out in 1,000 billion% confidence. Yeah, all of the feats and all of the scaling, which is ought we be using, support the Yu Yu Hakusho scaling. LOL Taguro bad math meme just doesn't cut it. Not there, not here, not now, not then, not ever, not in the future at any given time. Feats and scaling matter more than headcanon, and all of the feats and scaling suggest the scaling that I've shown Yu Yu Hakusho has. I'm not getting it out of nowheres, like he says. It's like, I can see where you're going. It's like, well, I'm sure, because all of the feats and scaling suggest it. But yeah. Alright. Did Sensui have bad math too? Did Sensui have bad math too?
Wait, well, he didn't say his percentage, did he?
No, but he literally just shifted his offense and his defense. And he he's still the weakest S-class to the weakest S-class. And goes from, I can hit you full contact with my special moves, to, I'll accidentally kill you with my aura.
Well, it never said his aura, though. They just said if they entered the fight, they would instantly die.
What that was their aura.
Well, yeah, you see their aura, but maybe they would go in and
their battle auras are causing cyclones.
Or one of their attacks. Unless it's directly stated to be their aura that would kill them, you can't just assume that.
I mean, do I need to bring up, like, Taguro vaping audience people and slicing up Yusuke with just his aura, and then they're creating the giant cyclones out of nothing but their aura, and that's what they're talking about, like, getting close to would kill them? I always bring up, again, like, what's the most accurate and consistent? It feels like you'd have to really reach to say that he's not going to be killing them with their aura.
I mean, Taguro didn't kill them with their aura, and honestly, it seemed like there was a bigger gap between 10% Taguro than that and them. Like, they didn't even stand a chance against, 40% Taguro.
Wait, who's they?
A chance against Sensui in his defense form and switching to offensive form, they would get killed by his aura. That doesn't make much sense.
Wait, so why wouldn't it? And then wait, what about Taguro?
Unless you're saying the gap between his defense and attack mode is much greater than Taguro's 110% form and his whatever form he would take to have be able to hit them and not kill them instantly. Which I don't remember how strong they were compared to Taguro. I'm pretty sure they were weaker than his 60% form.
You mean the main cast?
Yeah.
No. So Kurama is in Yoko form at least, when he fights Karasu, you might say that he's under 80% Taguro, but Hiei completely bodies him, bodies Bui, who would scale to at least 80% Taguro. And again, Hiei never even takes a hit one, but he also just sits there and tanks his actual full blows. And it's not giant AoE either, where the force isn't all going directly into him, and he's completely uninjured, and he one-shots him. All of that's dragon absorbed, but even him absorbing the dragon is such an insane increase to stats, and he went from B class to I'm still B class. And he's way more than just 2 times stronger when he goes from B class to B class with his dragon absorbed.
Okay, well, I think we have enough on power. I think we can move to speed that now, and we'll come back for our conclusions of what we think overall. But
okay.
I think we should move on to speed, which I don't think will take too long, for me at least.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah.
Alright, I'll just hit this up quickly, but talking about aura. Alright, so is it fair to say that is it Yusuke's and Sensui's aura that would have killed the main cast? Yes, it is the actual consistent, that is what shows to be the most accurate and consistent. Why would I say yes? So why is it most accurate and consistent? Well, it's because for one, it literally says it's their battle aura. That's what's noted as being the giant cyclones of power. And when they're talking about getting close, what's the first thing that they would have to contend with to even get close? Secondarily, we see that battle aura again, that type of battle aura again when Yusuke transforms, and he does it on his own. In fact, with even more cyclones and even larger. Now, additionally, is it their aura that would be killing them instead of just getting near an attack at all then? Well, once again, you'd have to make quite a reach to say that the aura wouldn't kill them, given how accurate and consistent aura is portrayed in Yu Yu Hakusho. Because we then talk about, like, Toguro's aura. Well, let's talk about, like, Toguro's aura versus the main cast compared to, like, Sensui versus the main cast. Once again, like, the consistency in terms of, like, the gap between the cast was, like, when we're talking about the aura, the gap between Toguro and the main cast is much smaller than the gap between Sensui and the main cast, as the gaps in power between classes are much, much bigger, not only from A class to S class, as it was for the main cast versus Sensui, but even just in the increments to power gains as you go up, aka the classes themselves. Like, a 10% increase for B class is less than to stats, is less than the difference in power that you would get as for a 10% increase as a S class. I just lowball and use the same thing, but it's obvious that they get stronger and stronger in the differences between just the classes themselves. I mean, quite obviously. There's a reason why it's like the difference between an E class and a low S class is less of a gap between a low S and a high S, right? However, even with talking about, again, accuracy and consistency with Toguro, if anyone needs to be convinced, like, is this how the aura works? We see it all throughout Yu Yu Hakusho. But, for example, like, we see that Toguro, he actually, aside from vaping the audience, the main cast did struggle with his aura, while injured, mind you, but still at, like, solid B-class levels. This was him, going pretty strong with his aura. Kuwabara is saying, like, oh, shoot, I'd be going insane if I could actually read it right now. His, like, actual energy and stuff. And they were scared of his aura. Yusuke, who at the time wasn't injured, he was getting sliced up by Toguro's aura. And this is where their powers are vastly closer than Sensui and A-class people. They weren't even high A-class, they were mid-A. So, everything, literally everything, points to this being how it works. You ought to take it as this is how it works. To fight against it and say that's not how it works, that's not how aura is, and it's not consistent, that would kill them, you have zero legs to stand on. You're reaching. It's backed up by every feat and scaling in terms of how aura is shown. It's let's see if I can pull another one just completely off the top of my head for aura. Let's see. We know that against Suzaku, he uses his aura. Yep. Against Suzaku, he uses his aura to defend himself against attacks, as like almost like a layer, a barrier. So we know that they can be used for defense. We know that they can be used as offense. Let's see, is there any other ones? Kuwabara does the aura defense part as well. Oh, shoot. Alright, and I know there's others. But anyways, this is going to be a long one, so let's keep going. Go.
Okay. Okay, so obviously I'm going to bring up Naruto dodging Light Fang. And I'm gonna bring up how, well, at least in the anime, it shows that he did dodge it. He didn't, like, dodge the head swing, just the head swing. And the manga shows that, like, these lines, which I didn't do, but someone did, that showed that he did. It looks like he did dodge it legitimately. And then the guidebook does confirm its light speed. And then even if you don't accept that, you have supposedly. I didn't read this novel, but supposedly this is from a Naruto novel, where he dodged what was stated to be legit photons, which obviously move at light speed. So that's a feat, not even a statement. And then you have Naruto, who reacted to and ran and blocked this attack from Toneri, which could cross the moon in like under a second. And crossing the moon in a second would put him at subrelativistic already. And Naruto had, like, you could see in the second one I posted, where Toneri shot the blast out already, and then Naruto ran like multiple feet and lifted his arm and completely prepared for that. So he easily reacted to that after it already shot out. So you have, and that was Naruto not in his prime. He was actually heavily weakened, not even in his strongest form. Already performing subrelativistic reaction speed feats. And I could also bring up like Akid Sky warping space-time, but I don't think I need to because Naruto has multiple light speed feats and close to light speed feats to show he can at least, I'm not saying Naruto is actually the speed of light or faster, but he can react to light speed. Even if it's only because he has like danger sensing from Sage Mode, which proves he has some sort of precog, which helps him even more.
Well, what
he
speed
can react to light speed attacks from close range too.
what speed do you think he is and his attack speed?
He should be relative to Toneri, so speed and attack speed wise, like movement speed wise, moving from one place to another, probably sub-relativistic at close range, possibly relativistic, like in really quick movements like head dodging and weaving, like how he could dodge a light speed attack at close range. I mean, it's honestly really hard to say for sure. All we know is he has the ability to dodge light speed attacks at close range. He has the ability to easily react to sub-relativistic attacks. And, I mean, that's as much as we can say for sure. So, I would say for you to say Yusuke outspeeds him, you would have to prove to blitz him, he would have to be faster than light. And to just, like, have the advantage in speed, you're going to have to prove, like, at least relativistic speeds. And that's, like, Naruto could be easily argued at relativistic as well. So you'd have to prove at least relativistic speeds to have him, like, argue any sort of speed edge. And you need to prove, like, have faster than light speed feats to prove that he blitzes.
Alright, and then I think I throw out my contentions, then I throw out what I think for Yusuke, and then you throw out your contentions, and probably conclusion.
Yeah.
Cool, okay, so with my contentions, like, it's mostly I just think that all of your feats you just pulled up aren't really that impressive, actually. So it's light speed because it says it's light speed. Let me ask, like Light Fang here. Let me ask you: did Naruto dodge it? Did he evade it?
Yeah.
It cuts all things with the speed of light, making it impossible for the enemy to evade. Is the statement true or false?
I mean, clearly that part of it is a hyperbole, but...
How do you get to say it's just part of it, then? How do you know it's not
You
all?
could argue that means just, like, nothing is faster than it, which I would accept that part of it. But, or you could argue that he only was able to dodge it because of precog, which I could also accept. But he can... obviously, he's shown to dodge it. And it's been said that Sage Mode techniques are using nature themselves, so the fact that it's a Sage Mode technique, and it's a light technique, it should logically be light itself.
Nature with chakra, so it's not just physical and shoot, I forgot what their whole system thing is. It's you got like physical energy, the other part that spiritual energy, and then nature ones just do spiritual, physical, and nature. There's nothing. It's not like
there's the feat of him dodging photons, which is literally just light.
Yeah, and then a novel.
Unless that translation is fake, but I mean I've gotten it from like the source of where people translated it, and no one said it was false. So
I straight up just disagree with novels.
If you can dodge photons, I don't see an argument to that.
I don't really accept the novels as canon. They either A, are never really shown to be canon, or B, completely contradict in a lot of ways the actual manga, the main source material. And then with Toneri's thing here, this is actually more of an anti-feat, actually. This is probably the weakest feat. So, Toneri's beam is very fast, that's for sure. Now, granted, it uses cinema time, but this isn't my fault for the calc, but this is cinema time. It crosses the moon in, say, a second, sure. Comes out to Mach, like, 16,000. When it's got to, like, a second. I wish you could like slow down exactly where Naruto appears, where the beam actually ends up getting hit. But do you remember where Toneri is relative to Naruto when he fires
I
it?
think you're getting to how far he ran compared to how far the beam went, but yeah, I'm not saying Naruto runs at that speed. I don't think he does. I'm talking about his reaction speed is obviously comparable to that of the beam speed.
I would say then this isn't.
It takes Naruto a while to even cross countries. He's not running at that speed. I will admit to that.
All right. So how fast is Naruto? The whole basis here is it always comes down to this. A lot of times is especially in text, but even in words, as you can tell, two different things were being talked about. As he said, it's like, okay, yeah. They don't move that fast. They talking about reaction speed or combat speed. And at the whole time I was talking about movement speed. So yeah, when I'm talking about like, if I was to compare like Yusuke's speed to Naruto's, I'm generally talking about the guy moves way faster than, say, Naruto in this case, or the Flash moves way faster, yada yada yada. Reaction speed and combat speed and movement speed are all different. Now, what's important to note is that almost always your reaction speed is much faster than your movement speed. Obviously, if you have more movement speed than your reaction speed, that'd be a dumb character because they'd be running into everything. So reaction speed is at minimum, of course, generally way above, because even us, like, we can react to things way faster than we can move by insane degrees. But yeah, that you can't say that Naruto is like relativistic in terms of like movement speed and such. So that's a main point. Just like you can't say that because Yusuke reacts to things that are like the three kings, like he can react to the three kings, and they would scale to be like insanely, disgustingly higher than Yusuke, that he moves at their speed or something. Now, secondarily, we bring up like the Naruto versus Light Fang. The whole idea is once again statements. That felt so weird that he's like, I'll take this one part of it, or you can argue with sensory something yada yada that he can like precog dodge it. Like that has nothing to do with the technique is stated to be undodgeable. Listen, here's the point: is that if you want to take statements as true, then you have to own it. Own your position, right? Own your position. Don't dance around it. If you want to take the statement as true, you have to understand that you are saying that it is true that the Light Fang can't be dodged. You don't get to say, well, with precog maybe. It doesn't say it's undodgeable except for precog or something. Secondarily, no, there's many more things that show that Naruto dodges it by a head swing regardless, but that's who cares? Who honestly ultimately cares? Because the Light Fang, we even bring up like we're talking like nature energy, right? So it's the speed of light because it uses nature energy. Whoa. I've brought this up many times before, but nature energy isn't just therefore it's the speed of the natural thing. You have nature energy plus chakra for the jutsu speed. And it's like you have the physical energy, the spiritual energy, and nature energy added to it to make whatever sage art, blah, blah, blah. This applies to the Light Fang, where it is entirely unnatural, light-based attack. Moving at an unknown speed, altered light doesn't necessitate that it moves at the speed of natural light. Just because it uses natural light energy doesn't mean it's moving even remotely to the speed of natural light. That doesn't mean it can't be. Just that you can't say that it does, and if you want to say that it does, use some feats and scaling. For Naruto, in this case, there is none that suggest it moves even close to the speed of light. Luckily, however, again, not that he'd be arguing that, and nor should anyone, if we're being accurate here, that Naruto moves as fast as it. Like, just perhaps reaction speed. But the nature energy thing applies to Kiden as well, when we're talking about like reaction speed and how fast people are. Kiden also isn't just natural lightning, and you don't get to just say it's the speed of natural lightning either. And we also see, I can show you here, is like, earlier, Madara uses a, a nature style attack that uses lightning, and they can, they barely dodge it, and they're like, oh shoot. That also goes against it. There's just, you don't get to just claim that because nature energy is part of the equation of all the energies being used for a jutsu, an unnatural means of whatever given attack, that it moves the speed of natural energy. Let me apply this fairly, if it seems like I'm going too hard on Naruto here. I don't believe that Suzaku, who uses natural lightning, is attacking with his lightning arrows at the speed of lightning. This would be even more important, more impressive, if I wanted to scale this way. If Naruto wants to scale doing it that way, then people who want to argue for Naruto, I could scale the same thing with Suzaku. And you have to understand that when we're talking about speed, you're also reacting to, like, distance divided by time in terms of how long it takes for it to get there. Like, I can react to lightning coming to me from the moon down. If it's not just the clouds, if it's coming from the moon all the way down to me, I could react to that with my human level reaction, because it takes so much longer for it to get to me. It's not moving slower, it just takes longer to get to me. Suzaku's lightning arrows, which are unnatural, modified things of lightning, if you want to claim that that's the speed of natural lightning at least, well, shoot, he dodges it from meters away, and he dodges multiples of them at the same time. That gets into light speed, like, actual scaling by, like, Toguro. Because, case in point, I was kind of going to save this for B-class and downscaling. I can show you here that, honestly, all the scaling I've done for this series has actually been even lowballed more than I knew of, if you want to talk about author statements. So if you want to take author statements and say, oh, they have some validity to them for those who enjoy doing that, Hiei, when they fought, like, shoot, I forgot his name, the guy who Yusuke very first fought from, Hiei, Kurama, and that other demon guy who, like, fought Yusuke with the tree and stuff and was eating the souls. He was, like, high E class to, like, the lowest D class you could possibly be. And then, like, Hiei was D class, and Kurama was D class. When Hiei fought Seiryu, what class was Seiryu supposed to be? What class was Byakko supposed to be? Hiei obliterated him. What class was Hiei supposed to be? And what class do you think, Yusuke and Suzaku would be, blah, 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 compared to the Dark Tournament? Because here you'll see that Hiei actually is supposedly still D class when he's in the tournament. Meaning when he one-shot Zeru, he was D class. That makes the scaling just astronomically higher. So if we're talking about, like, oh, they're dodging lightning by D class, or at the lowest in, like, the absolute lowest C class could possibly be, but realistically, like, Seiryu's talking about, like, oh, he's the one who can handle my technique, not like I get obliterated by him. It sounds like Suzaku's probably still D class. We're talking about, like, by the time they're at the end of Dark Tournament, Toguro, who's highest B class, they're, like, already nearing light speed, relativistic at least. But that's not my argument. I would just hope that you guys, for Naruto's side, stop using the argument. Or stop being fussy if people on Yu Yu Hakusho's side use the argument too. Now the last part of this is, let's talk about non-canon. We're talking about anime and light novels here, because it's coming up here and it'll come up in the future with as the debate keeps going. Listen. The basis of being canon is that it is what's referred to as the main series, right? It's the primary canon, if you will. A video game, for instance, is actually canon, but only to itself. Everything has a canon to itself, but that's irrelevant to the main or primary canon. aka the manga in most cases. It is non-canon to specifically that. Video games or light novels that aren't specified to be, or the anime especially. The manga doesn't have to be the main canon either, but in the case of Naruto, it is. And same with Yu Yu Hakusho. And looking more into it, it's actually very easy to find. They only specifically, it's only the Naruto hidden novels that are considered canon, plus the movie The Last. Those are the only ones that are considered canon. literally everything else is considered non-canon. What's more, even if considered canon for any series ever, if it goes against what is shown in the manga, or in this case, like the main canon, which is what's more important than it being the manga, having a one-off feat for any series in this way simply would fall into an outlier. Outliers go completely against consistency. That's what we would be looking for. If you want to use anime, especially, and light novels as pure canon, then I may as well use video games to support insane scaling for different series. It's silly, and it's a complete reach. Am I supposed to say that Hiei scales to like 4th dimensional because he can block Kuwabara's dimension-cutting sword in a video game, take no damage? Stop it. So no, the reason why I actually completely shunt off the idea of anime and light novels here is because it's simply not canon, and it leads into pure outlier on the... I don't even think the ones that are canon... If you look at the... I'll show it, hell. The ones that are listed as canon, the hidden series, is simply talking about, like, kind of like what we see at the actual end chapters of Naruto, where it goes over, like, some of the lives of the people at the end of Naruto, end of series. It's like, oh, Gaara getting married, Shikamaru and them checking out the Anbu, different things like that. Nothing with, like, I'm dodging photons, which would be like an outlier, even if we could say that they were actually the speed of light regardless. Anyways, that's the point. It's not about harping on Naruto. It's simply sticking to what is actually canon. I don't care if you can argue that a video game is so much stronger than the manga. I don't care. That's not canon. That doesn't mean anything to me. And so for Naruto, those things don't mean anything to me. And that's why.
Okay. This doesn't really require too much of a reaction speed.
I mean, it does because he put all of his chakra into a single hand and started running towards it all after the beam was fired.
Maybe it's just a difference of thing. I would say that that's like a combat thing, a combat speed. I know it gets a little weird. But I would say it's not like a reaction speed. Like maybe there's people who can attack faster than they can even sense or something. Anyways, it's weird, but that's what it is to me. Because sure, he has extremely fast like combat speed for certain things. I'm not so sure about his reaction speed being at least shown here. Maybe you could show other feats to get him like to react to be able to be like at that speed. But even then, it's not like him putting up all of his chakra in his hand is like even full fighting. So like what I'd be expecting is like in a fight where the beam was actually at the speed that the beam is going, instead was actually a person who at every angle and every swing is constantly at that speed. I think would blitz Naruto. Like if it was like alive, right? If that beam was actually like a character in that speed, and he like punches through it once, but then like it just keeps fighting, like it's not stopping. I don't think Naruto handles that speed based on this feat. You might need other feats. I think that
like I said, this is not. I mean, visually, this is him not even in his sixth path sage mode, and part of Kuruma's not even in him at this moment. So he's like far from full power, and also he's not even an adult yet at this point. So like we could assume that with Kuruma and his sixth paths mode on top of this, which would put him like a great deal stronger. And in his sixth pass mode, like I showed, he dodged Light Fang. If you don't want to accept that, whatever. But
I mean, I would say if we accept Light Fang at light speed, because statement, even though the data book literally contradicts itself with impossible to evade, but it's evaded. Again, I would pull up like the SDF saying, but Urameshi's Yusuke demonic power was infinitely stronger than anything they ever felt. The same SDF people who, mind you, know exactly what they're talking about. If we're talking about like we have no reason to, is like statements are fine as long as they're not contradicted or any of the other various reasons. I mean, I can pull out infinite, universal Yusuke.
Yeah, but that's like one of those obvious like just like them saying, oh, this infinitely stronger or whatever. It's just an exaggeration. It's like just like
I mean, I feel I can say the same about speed of light.
Dodge is an exaggeration. It says impossible for the enemy to dodge. So does that mean a character who's faster than light can't dodge it? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, the whole statement reeks of hyperbole.
Cut all things at the speed of light. I don't think we like. There's just nothing to, and it's called Light Fang, and all the scaling up to that point makes sense. Why Naruto could at least react to light speed at that point. Like, we have 8K's guy who's slower than him reaction speed-wise, already bending space-time with his movement. And when you get close to light speed, your mass increases, and mass creates gravity, and gravity warps space-time, so that kind of makes sense. And then you have... then Naruto blitzes the version of Madara in base, 6-paths mode. And Madara could barely react to it after he was already reacting to Guy.
This is the same guy who also had Lee throwing Lee catching up, throwing a kunai in between them.
Well, I think that was during his 8 Gates time or whatever, but he wasn't using Night Guy at that moment.
What I'm saying is,
and also you could just consider that an outlier because obviously Lee is not comparable in speed to 8 Gates Guy at all.
yeah, outliers definitely seem to exist. I would say that out of every, if there was ever an outlier, if we were to say that him warping space was definitely due just purely to speed, it definitely seemed most likely to be from speed, mind you. But we don't know what the technique entails. It's never really explained that much. But I would
also argue Guy has the fastest raw speed while using that move than anybody. But so I don't think you could scale Naruto to being running or moving that fast. But his reaction speed is on par with that speed.
Yeah, I wouldn't really push so hard against certain, as long as we're not pushing too hard on movement speed. Movement speed is the one where I think Yu Hakusho is vastly above Naruto in, not necessarily the others.
Well, let's get into that then. You can show me how fast you think Yusuke is and why.
All right. Let's see. Okay. And here's part 2 of it. We have, since we're noticing the energy coming through hyperspace, I don't feel like I need to actually hopefully show him going through hyperspace, but we see him verbatim traveling through hyperspace. Since we notices his energy before he gets into Demon World, as shown at the very last panel, so as he's going to be getting into Demon World, he's immediately traversed the distance before, since we could kill the 3, immediately traveled the distance of how many Okumen trees? That's essentially the speed feat. Again, also while at sub 36,000 PL.
Okay, well, obviously I brought up the actual size of those Okumen trees before. I'm not going to get into that again. And then we can definitely see the height of the other trees, which I got into before, but we won't get into that again. But even so, you can't just say instantly is literally it means he basically teleported. You have to give a time frame and you have to give a distance. And in that scan, there's literally multiple speech bubbles saying, "Huh? I sense an incredible Yuki."
Yeah, before he gets there.
It couldn't be. So scans can have multiple sentences in them. So multiple seconds can pass through a scan.
No, he says that before he actually gets there. So you see he's actually, you'll see that those are actually thought bubbles if you look a little closer.
Okay.
And he thinks that before Yusuke actually gets into Demon World is all. Secondly, in terms of if we're talking about passage of time, as I talked about before, unless shown otherwise, we can only go off of what we understand of real world. So, I'm not going to say, gravity exists in this new manga or something if it's shown otherwise. But if it's just left alone, we have no idea, I will have the assumption that gravity exists. If I see a mountain, I will be under the assumption that, unless shown otherwise, scale's in similarity to, human, like, mountains. Throughout all the scans of Yu Yu Hakusho, and pretty much every manga ever, more than 1 second doesn't pass from panel to the next panel.
I highly disagree with that, considering like there's plenty of large conversations and many panels, and conversations span multiple seconds. I'm not going to say, oh, a panel's going minutes on end. Obviously, that's not the case.
Sorry.
A panel could go from like a millisecond or multiple seconds, like somewhere in the seconds range.
I should have said during like a speed feat, like when we're in the middle of traversing X distance. Panels, especially during like mid battles and such, battles aren't taking place like one panel to the next being more than a second. Like, that's very standard across all manga, Naruto included. When a person slaps a girl's butt, Yusuke slaps Keiko's butt and she's like, "Yusuke, you jerk," and she turns around next panel and slaps him. That's 1 second. When Hiei like blitzes Seiryu, who can throw like hundreds of punches in a second or a split second, that's statement-wise. And Hiei, as a D-class, cuts him up 16 times before he can throw a single punch. That's also within, like, a single panel. That obviously should be less than a second. Whenever you see these speed feats, and especially, again, if we talk about, like, consistency, whenever we see a speed feat in Yu Yu Hakusho, it's very obviously within less than a second. It makes just the consistency argument that this would be less than a second, but 1 second.
I mean, I would agree in close range combat, obviously, like, because these characters are so fast, every move they do should be in under a second. But when you're talking about like a far, like he's off in the distance, traveling a long range, it's like maybe he did it in a second, or maybe he's watching like him stream down. I don't know. It's just hard to tell the exact like speed time frame. I wouldn't oppose it being around a second, but it's hard to claim it as a fact, if you know what I'm saying.
No, let me make this very clear, if you don't mind. I don't. Almost all of this, I wouldn't claim as pure fact. I argue from a sense of, and hopefully I would say you wouldn't like claim like Naruto is in fact like at a certain AP level. You're using logic, we're using logic. Power scaling is based on logic, and we're hopefully both people, if we're good faith actors, going off of what we think is the most consistent and accurate. So I'm arguing from a perspective of accuracy and consistency. I feel that favors what I'm talking about. But I wouldn't say that it is fact, like he's definitely doing it with him.
Yeah, I agree with you. But okay, so if you said that he said all that stuff before he came into Demon World, so is that line him traveling after those thought bubbles or something? Like he thought that and then he shot down all the way to the floor, or is he just coming out of the clouds at that scan?
Yeah, the portal is at the top of the clouds. Yusuke is still in hyperspace before this, and he's about to get into Demon World.
Okay, I thought that line shooting down from that spark in the clouds was him.
No, the thought bubbles are before Yusuke's actually in Demon World. And then the very next panel, of course, is him being there.
But we don't know how long the hyperspace is, though.
I'm not even calculating hyperspace. We just simply know in the very last panel that he's not made it to Demon World. So we know from the top panel, where he's not in Demon World, and the next panel, he's traveled the full distance that we see from Sensui looking up to the portal, which is, you see from the beam of light, is at least positioned further back than the horizon area that we can see. Yusuke...
So the beam of light is him coming down then, is that what you're saying?
No. I'm trying to use the light beam to show you that like its position is actually behind everything else, including like the background. That to give you an idea of distance.
Okay, so where's his starting point and where's his ending point?
His starting point on the first panel, the third little frame there, his starting point is almost into Demon World, almost outside of where the like spark in the clouds. He's almost out of that area. He's not in Demon World yet. That's what the third panel is.
Okay, so he came from the clouds, and then he's on the beheaded hill in the next scan. Is
Correct.
That what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, I see.
And
Alright, so starting with reaction speed. Yeah, so it's coming clear that, we want to talk about reaction speed, combat speed, versus, like, movement speed, and that they're all different. So, I think Naruto has great reaction speed, but it's not, like, some super astronomical thing. Now, the reason I say this is because of several factors that I bring up. But, for example, when we're talking about him reacting to Toneri's beam, for one, if you want to say, as we see, Naruto never really moves that fast. There's two different ways you can see it. Is the beam so slow that Naruto can move, like, a good amount of distance before it reaches anywheres? Or is the beam so fast that, Naruto can't really move at all? This is the problem with Senua, because I believe when he's running, it's even, like, in slow motion and such. Now, the reason we know the beam would be slow rather than, like, Naruto running really fast compared to the beam is that the distance between Naruto and Toneri is quite small, actually. And so for him to not reach, if speed equals distance divided by time, then Naruto not reaching a small distance in a short enough time, even less than a second, is pretty slow. I believe I calculated to, like, Mach 3 or something, Mach 3 to Mach 6 or something really, really pathetic, that he couldn't cover that distance within a time of about 1 second. Meaning that the beam, if it couldn't cover, if he had time to move the distance he did, the beam is just that much slower. If you want to say, oh, he moved, it's not Naruto, that's an anti-feat for the beam. Because we have a direct speed distance time. Now, I don't try to lowball it that way. I just think I think it's an anti-feat, but I think it's an outlier anti-feat. Just like an outlier for, I believe, for like 8 gates guy. I think outliers function for both anti-feats as well as feats. There's plenty of feats for consistency. You don't need the outliers. Now, that said, if we're talking about reaction, it's not like he needed massive reaction. He did react to it the first time, but let me make it very clear. As I brought up, it's not like... you can't just say he reacted to one attack so he wouldn't be blitzed by a person who moves this fast. This applies to every series. If character A, let me not make it about Naruto. If character A reacts to an attack that moves at Mach 100, but they can barely move that fast, or not even move close to that, they can move at like Mach 10, but they can react like once to Mach 100. If they're fighting a person who can consistently and from multiple directions, and not in a linear fashion as with this feat here, attack at the speed of Mach 100, or attack by like them actually moving, their combat speed is 100, Mach 100, and they're a living being, I'm sorry, you being able to react to that singular attack from that one direction, especially in a linear fashion, does not constitute as you not getting blitzed. You are getting blitzed. Movement speed seems to be way over people's heads because it is a extremely big difference in like what you can pull off in a fight. Movement speed is vastly important in a fight, not just the combat and movement speed. And the reaction speed. Movement speed is extremely important. It means if they need to try and escape in a fight, they can't. And if you need to retreat in a fight, they can't stop you. It also means blitzing and preventing from being blitzed on top. So, for example, you can react to whatever amount. It reminds me of Lee versus Sasuke. Being able to react is very nice. You need to be, otherwise you'll get blitzed even if you could move fast enough. It just never happens. Reaction speed is generally way higher than movement speed, if not at least matching. But if you don't have the movement to keep up, you'll still get blitzed. And this is the point where I'm talking about Naruto's movement speed just simply doesn't scale to many series. Their reaction speed is fine, it's just not close to their movement speed. But even then, their reaction speed isn't like this insane godly thing, because
the distance we have, like, he can react to Kirin. Well, can he? Because, I mean, he knows that it's coming with insane prep. He also knows that, we also know that Kirin is an unnatural bolt of lightning that would allow me to say, like, Suzaku's lightning is actual, the speed of actual lightning, or that the pretty gravity hole thing is, like, legitimately like a full black hole and stuff. Like, stop it. And again, it's all the way from cloud height. Distance mattering here, obviously, as I've said before. So there's just really, sadly for Naruto, there's just not really anything to suggest that the reaction speed is, I mean, you could maybe say that they have light speed reaction speed, but it's, you're pushing it. You're really pushing it. And especially not their movement speed. So now, on to, like, 8 Gates guy. So how fast is he? And is it fair to say he moves at relativistic speeds? Moves, right? Movement speed. This is a huge maybe. While it's true that space can be warped from gravity, that changes from moving near light speed with mass, as he brought up, that's totally true. It's also a technique. So as I brought up the pretty black hole thing, I'll get into this. It's a technique, right? The same kind that have him shooting out attacks that take on the shape of, like, an actual giant tiger. Like, is this from a normal punch? Is this, like, normal air gravity? Or, like, because how can you quantify or qualify here? How can you actually say it's accurate that he's doing, like, a normal punch, that it's not, like, his technique altering it? And if you're saying, well, yeah, it's altering it, but it still has the properties, how can you say that altered, like, things having the properties of things, but altered, necessarily actually is the speed or strength or whatever of the normal actual thing? So, like, if we're saying, like, oh, it has the properties of somebody moving near the speed of light, sure. But, like, if you're claiming it's fact that he's actually moving, like, relativistic, that's the huge maybe to, I'm kind of disagree, man. Sorry, dog. Because, again, as I said, it's like, this applies to every series. This isn't just Naruto thing. Like, I don't take, like in Dragon Ball Super, as I said, the pretty black hole, is that equal to a legitimate black hole? Because last I checked, black holes don't act like this, nor are they shaped this way, but it has the properties of a black hole. So it's not that guy couldn't be, in fact, approaching light speed. It's that there isn't any scaling to suggest it is. It would be so far, like, above and removed beyond everything else ever shown, or is shown again. Again, this doesn't mean it can't be the speed, though. But merely having the properties, such as the pretty black hole, doesn't constitute it as even being likely to be the speeds close to light speed. So, look, all this said, the last thing to consider, after all of that, is, do you take the feat as indeed relativistic in movement? Like, is it, if you do, is it an outlier? Now, this is entirely up to you, like, just like Lee throwing a kunai to 8 Gates guy. I take both as outliers, actually. Okay, so, Yusuke, I would take it as an outlier if, I take it as an outlier if you even say that it accurately is indeed him moving relativistic. Okay, now, Yusuke's speed. Note the difference in feats here. Note that with Yusuke's speed, it comes down to purely speed equals distance divided by time. There is 0 arbitrary unknowns in a technique. It is simply him moving from point A to point B. And when he brings up, like, we already talked about the size of Okuman trees, already talked about the size of the normal trees, Demon World trees. We did, and hopefully now it has been shown that accuracy and consistency heavily support island-sized Okuman trees at a minimum, given that they repeatedly about, like, 7.5 or 8.5 different scans of Okuman tree size compared to the, like, 1.5, showing that they're at least island-sized, if not far bigger, with them coming up to, like, having entire, not just plains, but entire deserts, with, like, the smallest desert being bigger than Cuba, which I'll bring up again here shortly. But you got to be fair here and actually present every feat accurately, because, like, if we're talking about, like, the size of the Demon World trees can be shown to be quite small. Yes, that is true. That is 100% accurate. If you are talking about the trees that are literally over an entire horizon's distance away.
Now, that doesn't mean that the trees near Beheaded Hill couldn't be those same size trees. There's just no way to say that it is or isn't either way. And we can see the literal mountains and compare that. Just this speed feat is so solid, it's pretty undeniable, as opposed to some arbitrary, like an unknown behind techniques, which I would apply this to any series, mind you. Any series where where a character goes from point A to point B with no technique is obviously infinitely more concrete than I use this pseudo technique or these abilities to traverse from point A to point B. Except we don't really know the point A to point B, but there's this effect. That's just true for every series ever. Now, going into this, is it fair to have Yusuke's speed feat up down to like 1 second when it doesn't have an actual time frame? And not just Yusuke, does this apply to every speed feat or series? Obviously, I say yes. I argue this case, but having the assumptions of things working in tandem to real life unless shown otherwise, and how that even applies, I'll just stick with that part. This is why I'm not going to assume gravity exists in your mythical world if it's shown otherwise, but if it's left alone, I'm going to assume gravity works. Why would I do that? Like, can you, on the other side listening to this, explain why somebody might do that? Or why I see a mountain in a mythical world and say, that must be at least relative to our real world mountains. Why would I do that? And the answer is, of course, for being as consistent as we possibly can. Being accurate, right? Things could be whatever given size, whatever given thing. So, again, bringing back to, the size of Oakman trees. This is why with the different, with them housing entire deserts and plains and the smallest desert in the entire world being bigger than Cuba, this is why you can actually argue, country-sized Oakman trees. But that's besides the point. It's just simply, that's just even more and more evidence to suggest that they're minimum of, island size. We have to be fair to feats. And I'm sorry, but Yusuke's speed feat is very concrete and actually doesn't have anything that counts against it or any feats that suggest, what the hell, that doesn't make sense. Whereas, then you have, Naruto barely being able to traverse, a Mach 3 speed, on the moon, with the last, and that being actually one of the canon things, surprisingly. Versus, Guy using a technique, it's just not just Naruto versus Yusuke, any series, you have to actually take the feats for what they actually show. That's it. Moving on.
But didn't you say before wasn't that his bird that was carrying him though?
That was Pooh. The same person who massively scales drastically lower, much slower, weaker than Yusuke. Now, you can argue that Pooh got a transformation, but that's because he's connected to Yusuke spiritually, the same Yusuke who also just got a transformation. There's astronomically, if I wanted to bring up feats, I would show that Pooh is actually weak, super weak. And that if you're going to say he got transformed, so did Yusuke. At bare minimum, because they're actually interconnected, the most you could possibly say is that Pooh scales to Yusuke. Realistically, the more accurate argument would be that Yusuke's faster, but I would merely say that Yusuke is faster than Pooh.
Combat speed, sure, but it's could you say his travel speed is faster necessarily?
With literally everything Pooh ever shows ever, yeah.
Okay.
Pooh's actually extremely slow.
Goku still used Kintone, even though obviously his combat speed's leagues above. But, yeah, okay, I understand your point.
We also see... it's in reverse order again. You can see that the spiral that they're going to is, once again, from, where we can see beyond the horizon. But this, I will say, this is sort of a weaker one, because the vantage point is really weird. Because I'm not trying to overhype anything. I understand that this is a weaker feat, because then I have the one that's already been posted where he demon gunned him past the horizon. But this one here is just more, I'm stacking evidence. They run there very quickly, and we can see when they start running, mid-area, like, each of these panels, when they're running there, am I supposed to think it took like a full second from panel to panel? Of course not. It's fractions of seconds. And then they're just immediately there. But that's kind of hitting what we already finished. And then, lastly, we have like the demon gun. Where he... If I can grab it here. Upload, upload, upload. I hope I'm not doing all these in reverse again. Here we go, last two. Okay, if they're out of order, I guess I might have to explain. Shoot, they are. So Yusuke, you know, he's in his transform state, which is just his full power of what he already had. Shoots out the demon gun, and it hits Sensui, and you can see in the panel where it's like all pitch black in the dark, and you can like see it traveling within the same frame. You can see that after it hits that, the next one is the panel actually right above, where he jumps after him. And he starts jumping in the top left one, the top left panel. They all are like, oh shoot, we gotta go. Or what the hell's going on? And that's including Pooh, who is at the very bottom scan. Sorry for making you jump around here. Pooh is completely left in the dust. As they, throughout the whole fight, were following the fight and following them. And you can see at the very last panel that Pooh also catches up very quickly, but like he's not even close to where Yusuke could travel. Again, I would just say that Yusuke is bare minimum equivalent to the travel that Pooh can do. This is just extra evidence, and they clear the horizon multiple times throughout multiple things, and things that are the size of Demon World, but you have shown that the trees are more accurately not the size I was thinking they were. But still over the horizon, nonetheless.
Okay, yeah, he's obviously definitely very fast, but can you give me an exact calc with that?
Well, speed equals distance divided by time. If we wanted to take the very first feat, it comes out to a Mach 2,600 and about 24 for Yusuke. With his very first feat that we see. That is about where he ends up at maximum. As the lowest S-class in the whole series.
Yeah, and I assume you're using your Beheaded Hill calcs for that, though.
Oh, that is true.
Okay, but let's just say if we go with that, it like most KCM Naruto calcs that I've seen when he blitzes the Raikage, if we accept the Raikage's like around lightning speed due to the fact he blitzed Sasuke, MS Sasuke, who should be comparable to MS Satoshi, who was sick, who reacted to lightning. He was getting blitzed by the Raikage, so most people accept the Raikage is lightning speed. Also, he has the statements saying that his neurons actually move at light speed or whatever, so you could argue as light speed, reaction speed, based off that, but I wouldn't say that because a human neuron also goes way faster than we could react to. But he has light speed neuron firing, and he, in the guidebook, which I wouldn't go with this statement, it says his lariat's almost the speed of light. But he has survived the speed of light before as a feat on screen, when they used the light speed teleporting technique on him. He was like the only person who could survive it. Well, so now they could too because of her healing, but he was like the only one durable enough to because of how like fast he goes. And KCM Naruto, who's weaker than BG mode Naruto, who's weaker than 6-pass Naruto, was able to completely blitz him. And I've seen calcs putting that like Naruto in quad Mach because of that at KCM. And then, so that would already put KCM Naruto like around Sensui fight Yusuke in terms of speed. And then you have BM Naruto on top of that, and then Biju Sage mode on top of that, and then six pass mode on top of that, and then adult mode Naruto on top of that.
So, shoot, I think I did my math potentially wrong. Regardless, real quick is, speed of lightning. People always like to use the third the speed the light thing. That is the return stroke. A downward stroke of lightning is like...
Yeah, I think it's Mach 300 is the leading stroke, or Mach
yes.
390 something.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm going off of.
And then if you give...
The return stroke could have been where, like, the confusion with the Raikage striking, like, Lariat almost being the speed of light came from. I could see where that happened, but yeah, I don't think he should be that fast, and when characters dodge lightning, it's definitely the lead stroke they're dodging.
Here we go, let's see. Okay, yeah, I had the right Mach speed. 2,624. Here we go. Sorry, I'll be honest, I was pseudo trying to make sure my math was right because I didn't want to mislead you on how fast he was. But yeah, you said, so you're saying that he's about the speed of lightning because he was able to blitz someone who could match another Itachi who could react to the speed of lightning. The only big problem with the react thing is that he had plenty of prep time to react to.
That's true, but he didn't bring out his Susanoo until after the shot was fired.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say Susanoo, like, forming and, like, coming out would definitely be faster than, like, Mach 300. But it's not like he wasn't ready for it. I wouldn't say that he's, like I can react.
But we also have to keep in mind Itachi was sick, so like a prime Itachi should. And there's also multiple statements like Itachi cut lightning when he was a teenager, like and he's done it. I think he did it in one of the filler episodes that was based on the novel, where he actually did it in the novel, and I believe a couple other characters did it in the novel. But regardless, Itachi, or not Itachi, did I say? I meant Kakashi lightning times before with his lightning blade. So, like, we know for a fact he did it. Like, it was stated, and then it was also shown in the anime. And that's why it's called the Lightning Blade. So, I just don't see why we wouldn't accept Naruto High, Jonin, or Kage tier characters being lightning timers when we have the Lightning Blade, Itachi literally doing it on screen, and then, like, the Raikage, like, having his light speed neurons and moving his body fast enough to blitz said characters. Like, you'd have to, like, just argue around it, but it just seems like the obvious choice that they're supposed to be lightning timers, with the Raikage being around lightning speed, and then KCM Naruto being faster.
Maybe. So here, my only problem would be, so again, you're talking about pure reaction speed. The thing is like, then there's then you have a problem of distance. Okay, so if you answer this, maybe I'll agree. We'll see. I cannot react to the speed of lightning.
Obviously.
That's actually false. Depends on how far away it is. If light...
Yeah, well, if someone let you know it's coming from really far away, you technically could, but even if they didn't, by the time you saw it coming, you would probably be hit. But
well, no, so let's say we had a lightning bolt that came from, like, the moon.
Yeah.
Like, I would be able to react to that.
Yeah.
So the distance matters. I think when we're talking about, like, Itachi reacting to lightning, we already have the fact that, again, he had prep time. And then if you're talking about scaling to, like, Raikage, he's also, or, shoot, was it Raikage? No, when we're talking about, like, Kakashi cutting through the, lightning, again, Where in the manga is that? Because if you're talking about novels,
Guy said, like, when they talked about the lightning blade in part 1 Naruto, Guy was like, it's called the lightning blade because he cut through a bolt of lightning.
okay, wait. So is his statement?
And then in the novel, it does happen as well.
Is his statement taken as true because Guy knows him and like he knows what he's talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I could easily argue the hyperbolic statement about Yusuke being like infinitely stronger than anything the SDF ever felt.
But then there's the novel and the anime scene that has him do it. And then you have Itachi also do it. So it's like it's consistent.
Wait, novels... I disagree with the novels being canon.
Okay, but they even added it into the anime, so
I mean...
like, obviously you could say the anime is not canon as well, but I mean, you're like just ignoring official... like sources that back up.
I wouldn't ignore official, but that's the whole argument is it canon? Canon is the official.
I don't know why it wouldn't be.
Alright, so the last part ended off of something that I already covered, but why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't the non-canon novels and the non-canon anime not be canon to the manga? Again, the manga is the main canon, it is the main series, it's the main everything that everything else needs to apply itself to. They're not canon for the same reason that video games aren't. But I've already covered this, so I won't be giving this spiel again. You can rewind the video to see everything, and again, I already looked it up. There are certain novels, certain very specific novels that are considered canon. Anyways, at this point, so is it fair to compare the Raikage's movement speed to Kirin, which was compared to Itachi reacting to Kirin, if the distance of the two movements are vastly different? This, again, applies to any given feat. You know what? I'm going to stop using Naruto names in this. Is it fair to compare a person's movement speed to an attack's speed that is compared to another person reacting to the attack? If the distance of the attack that the person reacted to and the distance of the person that the person's reacting to are vastly different, is that fair? For example, the median human reaction speed is within 215 milliseconds. This means anything that moves from point A to us, a human, in less time will on average, because this is the median human reaction speed, will on average be impossible to react to, let alone physically do something about. What would this say about the speed of the thing that can move from point A to us in less than 215 milliseconds? Absolutely nothing. It doesn't say anything about the speed. Look, we're missing the distance to determine the speed. We can't determine speed off of only time. And unlike time frames and panels that show a progression of time, there is no distance like minimum for different various things like a normal progression of manga series. We need speed is distance divided by time. All we have is time here. If something moves, let's say, not just within 215 milliseconds in unknown distance, let's say they move 100 meters in 200 milliseconds. Can we as humans react to that? Well, the answer is it depends. Are we 300 meters away? Because then we can. Is it 100 feet away? Well, then we can't. And yet the speed remains the same. So you get the point here, right? Because being twice as far away literally requires half the reaction time to, well, react. This is why Raikage versus the unnatural lightning that Kirin is so subpar. Just the logic doesn't flow. He was blitzed by some, let's say they are, let's say the Raikage was only a third closer than the cloud distance down to Itachi. Let's say he was a third closer. Well, that's a difference of, let's just also make the bold assumption that the unnatural dragon-shaped lightning thing that Kirin is actually does move at the speed of a downstroke of lightning, Mach 300. If Raikage was only actually a third of the distance closer when he
blitzed, and obviously it'd be quite a lot closer than that. But let's just say that's already he would be able to do that within like Mach 100. That it would require like Susanoo to be able to react to him, right? He could just move Mach 100, and it would require the same reaction. Essentially, is the point. So that's why I'm sorry. First, you have to use another technique that I could use for like Suzaku for Yu Hakusho to try and scale to a person who has vastly different distances, which again with Suzaku, he's attacking from meters away, just applies so much of a difference of like how reaction speed actually works. It's just not accurate to say that it actually applies. Or we would have to say that like Suzaku attacking with his unnatural lightning is attacking with the speed of lightning, and Yusuke could dodge up to 5 out of 6 of them from close range, not cloud to, normal speed, but like meters away as a D class or C class, lowest C class. We have to be fair on either one. This applies, as I will keep saying throughout all of this, to all series, all feats. Now, at this point, he also brings up statements again. And as always, fine. Just don't be upset when you see Omnipotent Yusuke brought up. And once again, as I addressed at the beginning of this little spiel, more non-canon things / outliers are brought up. I don't care about those. I don't care about Omnipotent Yusuke. I don't care about he can block 3-dimensional cutting attacks with 0 damage video game. I mean, I keep bringing up a video game because it's so obviously not canon, but just because light novels have the potential to be canon, ones that aren't canon are just as not canon as a video game, which is the whole point. I'm using video games to make it so hyper obvious that it's not canon, and how ridiculous it is to use anything that's not canon as canon. Once again, moving on. So the manga is the primary source for a reason, unless it wasn't what was created first from the author. But what you're looking for is created by the author and overseen by the author, generally written by the author.
Yeah, but also the guidebook that says Light Fang is light speed, it says it's written by the author, just saying. Like, the guidebook says by Kishimoto.
Well, yeah, we're talking about canon, not if statements therefore true, because...
Yeah, not anything, but you would have to prove, like, Guy, I think, has got, like, he's consistently told the truth, so you'd have to, like, show that he's, like, a liar, basically, to say, like, why would he lie about why it's called the Lightning Fang?
Okay, fair. But then can you show why the SDF would lie?
Oh, the lightning blade's as fast as lightning. He literally said it's called the lightning blade because he has cut a blade of lightning in the past with it.
I mean,
So
can you...
unless Guy had a reason to lie, or he's like a guy who lies, like, I don't know why we wouldn't accept it.
Let's see.
Because, like, I agree certain statements, it depends how it's stated. Like, when characters say, he's as fast as lightning, yeah, that's like a hyperbole, it's a common hyperbole statement. But saying the attack is called the lightning blade because in the past he cut a blade of lightning, that is not a hyperbole statement. That's just a statement of what happened in the past. And then multiple feats back up this speed. And then it actually happened in the novel, which was adapted in the anime.
See if I can... It's sounding like if the statement can't be contradicted and the person doesn't seem to have a reason to lie, then we ought to take it as true. That's what it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah. Unless it's like a straight up hyperbole statement that, like, obviously there's, like, you can tell the difference between a hyperbole statement.
Well, I use feats and scaling to determine what is or isn't hyperbole.
Yes, and then I showed the feat of Naruto reacting to, like, the sub-relativistic moonbeam, which would be consistent with him being faster than KCM mode Naruto, who is faster than lightning, who's faster than Kakashi, who's a lightning timer. I think that's pretty consistent. Like, did he go from, like, Kakashi's not even a lightning timer to Naruto, who's almost light speed? Like, there has to be a state of progression. And Kakashi was able to keep up with Obito, who was able to keep up with BM Naruto. So honestly, it makes sense for Kakashi to have reaction speeds on that level.
For ease, I will accept what you're talking about for their like reaction speed. But with the statement, Sensui's statement, he has no reason to lie. He's not contradicted. For the SDF, they have no reason to lie. They're not contradicted. For how they explain like what it is to be S class, what they explain A class even. Yu Hakusho, A class, and we're looking for. Where is it? Like, talking about, like, in depth, talking about how A classes are, like, the various gods of religion in terms of power. In fact, he even refers to angels. You have other statements talking about, like, the S-class people, you know what, even better. We know that these religious gods exist because that's literally what Enma is.
Yeah, but as far as I'm aware, Enma's, like, weak sauce.
He would be like, no, not Ko-Enma, his father.
Does he have any feats?
I mean, why would Ko-Enma lie? And he's definitely not contradicted.
Or how strong is Enma stated to be?
Strong enough to cause will be able to embrace heaven and earth, and he does rule over all of heaven. I predict a shakeup more violent and widespread than the Great Kanto earthquake. Mount Fuji may well erupt, which would take about country levels of force to cause it to erupt. And that's just the collateral damage. Our punishment will be worse. Basically, talking about him being angry and that he can cause havoc over, like, a planetary distance. This isn't a potency thing, but we have scaling for potency. He would be scaled into, like, A class, unless you want to make him weaker because he, unless you want to make him weaker.
Like one attack, like that would be his rampage would do that. Like, I'm sure, like, if an A class or an S class rampage with enough time, they would definitely ruin the world. It would be completely destroyed. Well, not like blown up, but like when people say nuclear war would destroy the world, they don't mean the Earth's gonna blow up because all the nukes together can't even put a dent in the moon.
I never brought up Enma to talk about how strong he was. You were asking if, like, it scaled. I brought up Enma to show that the mythological.
But like, if we're like for A classes, like, I'm just saying we don't have a picture of how strong that is. It means he's strong enough to cause country level plus damage in a reasonable amount of time, but it doesn't mean he can do it in one attack. That's just all I'm saying.
To just address this really quickly, this was a super pivot, which is just purely for the debate. The whole point is simply that we see in statements, it has nothing to do with the scaling. I don't know why it went in that direction. In statements, they bring up the fact of mythological, like, actual religious figures and how powerful they are, and talking about the A-class demons. And we know that Enma exists as an actual mythological person of a religion, no less, and they talk about his power, yada yada. The whole point is that if we're gonna say, once again, statement, it doesn't have a feat or any scaling to suggest it's true, but hey man, why would he have a reason to lie? Well, then cool, then we can play that game, and A-class scales beyond just Enma, but we have, like, all the other various religions, in fact, since we bringing up, like, angels and such, as you'll see later. That's the whole point. I don't know why it went in the direction of how powerful he is. Simply, we're talking about the statements. Just want to make that very clear, because I've had this talk now many, many times about statements. All the other stuff is awesome, great, cool, but I still wholeheartedly believe that you need to have a basis in feats and scaling first, then everything else follows and makes it stronger and strengthens the argument. But without any feats and zero scaling, you're done. The statement just doesn't hold up. And that's what this whole... Again, I don't know where the Enma strength came from. That has nothing to do with what was being talked about. So if he wants to make arguments on statements, universal Yusuke or omnipotent Yusuke, it's... if you're being consistent with how statements work. Thank you.
A class is stronger than Toguro, weaker than Sensui. It doesn't matter because end of series is he's fighting end of series like S plus class Yusuke, not an A class.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm just saying, talking about statements here. Like we could say that we have like the god of Christianity is an A class because statements. There's no reason to they contradict. In fact, it's supported with Sensui later talking about angels, which falls directly towards like Christianity. Other things have like jinn and such, but generally not angels. Doesn't matter. I don't care about the statement things. I don't accept them for Yu Yu Hakusho unless there's feats and scaling to support it. That's why I push back on the statements for Naruto.
Yeah, I'm just saying there is feats that support the Naruto statements.
Yeah, I guess it's just the canon non-canon thing. Okay. Let's see. So I guess we covered. So the last thing, I already covered scaling because most of the feats with Yu Yu Hakusho ending the way it did is scaling. Already been covered, but the feats that I'm bringing up are just when they're like literally like absolute magnitudes upon magnitudes weaker. You're basically going against Sensui here in terms of feats, and then I get to still scale to what Yusuke actually is.
Okay, so before I go in, I'm going to move into like the ability section and say why I think Naruto would win in a fight. Do you want to bring up any last thing about power or speed that you...
No, go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so obviously Naruto's staple is his clone ability, and he could create like up to 1,000 or plus clones, and each clone has been shown to have the attack power on par with his original body.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've shown for Naruto and those potency of hits that could hurt like Momoshiki that couldn't be hurt by Sasuke's blades and whatnot, and that could cut through Madara, blah blah blah. Each of Naruto's clones could hit with that power. And like Yusuke, I remember Yusuke, at least at the beginning, he had a very limited amount of spirit guns he could use. I don't remember. I know he got more and more as the series went on. What was the final number he was able to do by the end of it?
Shoot, I'll be honest, I'm going off of memory here, but he could fire... Because I'm trying not to remember the anime. Gosh dang it. For easy argument's sake, because I don't think it actually matters, say he can only shoot about 6. Because I know he's fired at least that. Alright, and this pretty much about wraps it up. I'll still leave in the rest of the debate and everything, but going over the ability section, we all know that Naruto has way more abilities than Yusuke. Yeah, if they were equal, then Yusuke loses. The whole point is that they're not equal. It's, as I say at the end, it's like, if you were to take Yusuke, if you were to take like the Hulk and all of his strength and speed and stats and stuff, and you were to put him against, I don't know, a normal person with human level strength, but they could clone themselves 100 times. What the hell does that do to Hulk? He doesn't care. And yet, if they were similar strength, and you were to negate the whole fact that he's so much superior physically, then the normal human would win because now Hulk is normal human level or something. But who cares? That's totally irrelevant because what's not shown is that Yusuke, LOL Toguro bad at math meme is just that. It's a meme. When we want to be accurate and consistent, go forward understanding that in terms of speed, Yu Yu Hakusho scales into FTL with the actual scaling that has feats and heavy consistency. You can go forward with the reaction speed actually scaling alongside that. If we're looking for Naruto reaction speed, I know I ended up just accepting it just to move the debate along, because even if he's like, they react to light speed, that's still slower than like the movement speed of Yusuke, let alone, as I described, like, you being able to react to the speed like once isn't going to help you beyond the person being able to physically move like hundreds of thousands of times faster than you. You simply would be almost frozen in time while you react, like you can like see it coming but can't do anything about it. Like that Bleach thing, Mayuri, I believe, gave that one person like mega reaction speed, and it looked like it was like years and years as the sword slowly like pierced them. I mean, Yeah, basically that. Look, so it's just important to look and take feats as they actually are, and not try to apply like bias into it. With Yu Hakusho, because I'm really trying to avoid like doing any like downplay of Naruto or anyone taking that way. Let me just stick to Yu Hakusho here. Yusuke's speed feats don't require any arbitrary weird techniques. They are as concrete as possible. You cannot really go against them. The LOL bad math meme is just a meme. The scaling is mega consistent. The size of Okuman trees, extremely consistent. All of this will be covered in my conclusion video, but for now, hopefully you can see exactly where all of this takes us. But in the conclusion video, I'll be able to actually, once I cover like B class and lower scaling, compile it all and make a giant respect thread for Yu Hakusho, so I don't have to keep revisiting it, keep going back to it. I'll be able to break down AP versus DC statements and all that in one giant respect thread that everybody can share and be like, screw you, your downplay doesn't mean anything, here's a respect thread for anyone who ever wants to use it. Or bring anything up to me about it that seems more accurate or consistent, and I can add to it or remove anything from. If you're a Naruto fan and you think I'm wanking something, bring it up as long as you're going to bring it up in good faith. I don't want to hear these novels are canon when they're not, or you take the statements in them as just God's given like truth, but not do it for Yu Hakusho or any other series. Or you're going to say that's an outlier for this series but not for mine. I will just ignore you. But if there's anyone who has actual plans to be accurate and consistent with what they say, and that's actually something you care about, because if you don't, then I don't care about what you have to say. If you care about being accurate and consistent, then from any series, if you think because this will be about Yu Hakusho that I'm doing the respect thread on, then tell me, and I can change accordingly, if at all. Alright. That'll be coming in the future. Enjoy the rest of the debate.
Okay, so I think you know where I'm going with this. Obviously, Naruto has way more than 6 clones. And I think by the scaling you presented, Yusuke is going to at least need his spirit gun to outright kill Naruto, and that's if I accept your scaling, which I personally don't, but I think he would need his spirit gun. And unless he hits the actual Naruto, he's going to end up running out of spirit guns. And not only does Naruto have cloning abilities, he can transform, including his sexy jutsu, which he likes to use, and he has used in combat. I don't know how often. I don't remember how like Yusuke was like distracted by girls or not too much in this show, but if he is, this could definitely distract Yusuke, and Naruto could slip in a bunch of tailbeat shurikens or all those clones. He could actually transform shurikens into people, or like vice versa. So he could. Like, those could all be tailed beast shurikens ready to explode in Yusuke's face that he's not ready for.
I think the reverse harem would be more effective, to be honest. I don't think he'd be ready for that.
Yeah, that's true. And then also, like, here's a gif of Naruto who is pretending to be a shuriken, and he used that to trick his opponent. So he could have 1,000+ clones, each with their own mind, just as smart as the original Naruto, just as strong. The only deficit is that they basically get one shot at their hit. But so each one could come up with their own plan and do something similar to this. So you could have thousands of people planning stuff like this, and each Naruto, I believe, is more powerful than Yusuke. We saw when Naruto made his clones during the war, each one was stronger than even like the Kage that they were like, or whoever he was with. Like, he was like on par with the Kages, if not above them. And that was just a clone that we were like watching the whole time, fighting like the third Raikage and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Showing that a massive amount of stamina. And another stamina showing for Naruto is when he gave like literally all the thousands of soldiers in the war, he gave them each a Kurama cloak that like multiplied their power by 4. And which is a huge number, especially considering how strong each ninja is. And then Naruto was still powerful himself, being able to fight like Obito and whatnot. So like, even if Yusuke was on Naruto's level or above him, which I don't think he is, Naruto could still just win due to his versatility and his abilities. Like, Yusuke can punch, and he can shoot a few spirit guns before he runs out. Like, I just don't see how he would win unless Naruto was, like, really stupid and messed up.
Okay, yeah, I think mostly what you're thinking of in scaling is that Naruto is above the Sensui feats, and even then, I just, made it easier and just said, okay, Sensui bust maybe something like the size of an island even. Even if you don't agree with that, like, for me, I consider that a very big, I of course heavily disagree with that. But even if he busted just an island with the air pressure of his punch, which of course would be AoE against all the clones and such. Again, you said you disagree with the scaling of Toguro. I showed, or like with the series rather, I showed and explained through multiple feats that 10% increase in power is like a minimum of a 2 times increase. Honestly, the gap between class to class gets even bigger and bigger, so it should be take even less of an increase for the same amount. And
yeah, but if you have to like, if you're going off the power level argument, like he says, oh, I got 10% stronger or whatever, but in regards to what? If he got 10% stronger, but it was really 2 times stronger, it's not 10% stronger unless it was a 10% gap in his power level. And a 10% gap in power level is a 2 times actual strength difference. But we don't know Togoro's power level, or if that's what he was talking about. Like, if he says a 10% gap, we would assume he just means his power and stats in general, which clearly isn't the case, though. So, I mean, it could just... I mean, it's just weird. Like, I mean, it kind of reminds me in Dragon Ball, like, with, like, how, like, Frieza's percentages and how, like, some characters are 20% stronger, can stomp others. But then, like, Frieza was, like, 20% weaker than Super Saiyan Goku, but fought him to a standstill. Like, it's just weird. Authors aren't good at math half the time. I mean, like, I understand where you're coming from, but it's, like, it's just, like, it's so, like, not concrete or, like, set in stone.
I disagree.
It's really hard to say he's stronger than Naruto when Naruto has all of these feats, and which backed by potency, which I showed as well.
I think you're making it convoluted. He shows, like, he states his percentages every time. He never states, I'm now 2 times stronger. So 45% Toguro, he goes 45% and, like, solos a team of, like, low C class to B class demons. To say, like, if you're talking about, like, a 2 times increase, you'd be expecting, like, 90% Toguro, and that's blatantly against, like, every feat shown. So it's obvious, like, the percentages in his power translate to large increases to stats, however you want to cut it. The percentages, though, are, like, we have measuring throughout Yu Yu Hakusho multiple times. When they measure like their PL. We know about their people giving their total power level. We also know for certain that him going up by percentages is a vast increase to total stats. He's, like, again, within a 10% increase to himself, his stats are at an incline of a minimum of 2 times increase. It's just hyper blatant to me. And then, of course, even if you take Hokushin at the 36,000, say he was equal to Sensui, Yusuke scales to 500,000. And that's not just in a base multiplier, of course. This is why, and it makes sense. This is why they can aura vape each other, like, without even trying. Which is shown all throughout the whole series. Toguro goes from a B class to a B class to a B class to a B class as he keeps powering up. He finally gets 100% over 100%, and he's B class. And that's the gap of B class. That's just how big the gap is. And A class is even bigger gap. And S class is an even bigger gap than that. I mean, I didn't make this, but this shows it pretty well in my opinion. Like, I don't know, you might have to click on it, but, like, you have the little white dot in the middle, and then you have, like, the black dot in the middle of the white dot. That's supposed to be like Toguro. This is pretty accurate. To get, like, a representation, like, idea. And all of the feats support this. And the gap is just bigger and bigger and bigger to, like, Not just multiplicative, but an exponential increase. Every feat supports it.
Yeah, I understand, and I'm sure there is big gaps of power, but it's like you're going off of like it's like, oh, he's stronger and he's stronger than him and he's stronger than him. Like we can't like dial down. It's like where exactly are they in power? And while I have like concrete feats, like it's more like it's not like your fault. It's kind of like it's just what we have to work with here, and I just have way more to work with, honestly.
I got 170 chapters, baby. No, but I still kind of disagree. I didn't show he's stronger than this guy, he's stronger than this guy. I showed 80% Toguro bodied Yusuke and was completely unharmed by his cuffed spirit gun that did X amount. Then Yusuke takes off his cuffs, and now his punches have more potency than the spirit gun he had, and is completely bodying Toguro. That's already an insane increase. Given his spirit gun at a bare minimum is a 2 times increase. Now for his punches to be stronger than his spirit gun, he didn't go from, I'm uncuffed, my spirit gun is 2 times stronger than my spirit gun. He went from like, my punches are stronger than my spirit gun. And 100% Toguro, like these are all direct. You can't possibly go against them feats where he blocks his punch with a thumb and yells away his spirit gun. Yada yada yada. That's not me going, he's stronger than this demon, and that demon's stronger.
I agree. You proved that they got multiple times stronger
within percentages
in that specific case, but
and then Sensui's.
You can't like you're trying to you can't Toguro's power, like trying to scale every character off of what Toguro said his percentage was is just really I think it's too much. Like you can't assume that much. I think it's safe to say, let's say if Setsui's around 20,000 and then Yusuke got to 500,000. I think it's safe to say, I think it's fair to say, okay, so what is that,
10 times increase for 200.
A little over 20 times stronger.
25 times.
25 times stronger. Okay, so, and then if you said, okay, if we went with what I said, I think Beheaded Hill's size can be argued a lot of different places, but let's just say, if we mid-balled it, I think it's a mid-ball at the island level, 25 times island level.
No. He did it with the air pressure of a punch, not full contact, let alone the special.
Punch. 25 times island, and then you could, whatever you want to multiply on top of that, you could maybe, say, okay, continental level by the end of it, or whatever. Continental plus even. But I think I've already easily argued Naruto at that level, and then like I said, he has thousands of clones, better strategies, better stamina. Okay, let's just assume, for the sake of argument right now, that they're exactly the same strength. How would you argue Yusuke would win? Or do you think Yusuke has to win via stats?
Yusuke's a brick, he has to win via stats. So yeah, it comes down to that scaling.
Okay, so how do you think the fight would go exactly?
Based on even using again, just going off of how you're talking about with Beheaded Hill, it's not a 25 times increase, as obviously I feel I've shown. That's them using their aura, and he can vape people that I think scale stronger than Naruto. He literally, I think the difference in Naruto to Yu Hakusho in potency is immeasurably vast, to a degree that Yusuke could actually aura vape. I think that his potency and durability is just so many magnitudes above, with their direct and I feel very concrete scaling.
Okay. So, I guess we should go into our conclusions now, unless you have something else to add.
Nope.
Okay. So, my conclusion is, I think I showed Naruto was overall more powerful. He has more consistently high-end feats. I think especially the showing that he's more strong than someone who could slice the moon, and that wasn't even Toneri going all out. He could casually cut the moon. He could do it multiple times. And then there's also Madara, who used a jutsu that spread the tree across the entire planet, so you could argue planet surface level range of power. And the infinite Tsukiyomi, which also covered the planet with the Genjutsu. Kaguya's planet dimension thing, which Naruto arguably doesn't scale to, but he does scale above the Ten Tails, who has shown power of country level power with one Biju bomb, and he could shoot multiple of it. And Naruto scales above the Ten Tails full power, and it's while it's not potency, we saw his stamina was the chakra was almost comparable to the size of the planet visually to the sensory ninja team. So Naruto could be highballed to low end planet level if you really want to. And then plus he and Sasuke literally created a moon ripped out of a planet to seal Kaguya using the power Hagoromo gave them, and both of them together are supposed to be Hagoromo level because each give him 50% of his power, so you could argue 50% moon level based off of that, which also kind of backs up him being stronger than a guy who could slice the moon in half, while not even at full power. But even at maximum low ball, you have him performing continental plus feats via scaling of attack potency. And then you have his speed, which I showed. He dodged Light Fang, which is stated in Guidebooks to be light speed. He reacted to that moon slicing attack, which would be sub-relativistic, pretty easily. And he scales vastly above lightning speed. And I don't think you proved that Yusuke could outright blitz him, or is even faster in general, but you definitely didn't prove he could blitz, in my opinion, since Naruto reacts to light speed attacks. And you didn't even prove he was faster, because the highest calc you gave was Mach 2000, and that was using your beheaded hill size scaling, which I think is a big highball. And then even if you multiply him being 25 times faster than that, the end of it, that's still only sub-relativistic. And ability-wise, you had even admitted if they're the same power, Naruto has this in the bag. So if you think we argued them about the same, then that means Naruto wins by your own admission. So Yusuke has to be stronger, which I just don't think you proved. And I think your argument really relies heavily on the beheaded hill feat size, which I think is heavily contested, and I proved that it's heavily contested. And a lot of assumptions on scaling, which even if they're logical assumptions, they're still assumptions. Well, I basically used solid feats and evidence and statements, and that's why I think I won the debate. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I showed that when we were talking about AP and DC, that when we actually broke it down to the AP feats and he was doing scaling, that it was only showing to be, we'll say, continental at best, if even that. Talking about tonary slice and things is mostly a DC feat, requires scaling from prior things. Nothing AP has them any higher than that for sure. Whereas I showed Yusuke and the actual scaling, he's talking about 25% times more powerful. I don't know why. There's nothing that shows that the scaling works that way. Every feat shows that it scales the way I'm talking about. It's not refuted past that doesn't feel right to me, is how it seemed like to me. When we're talking about speed, he's arguing against a Mach speed that was talking about Sensui at the Sensui's level of PL, whereas we're talking about he's not against Sensui, he's against end of series Yusuke, who is not just 25 times more powerful, but exponentially 25 to the exponent of 25 times more powerful of 2 times multipliers. Secondarily, I would agree that Yusuke doesn't blitz, but that his Naruto's reaction speed isn't enough to warrant him not getting completely ran circles around. And that the travel speed means that even if he can react once, he has to turn repeatedly. He's constantly being circled and being hit from different directions, as Yusuke can actually move at the speeds that Naruto can merely react to. And that Naruto cannot run himself. So he's always being pushed in a corner. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, I suppose the last bit would be, I feel like the beheaded hill thing can be contested, but only in a sense of subjectivism, in which case the best way to go about that is being as accurate and consistent as possible. I feel I've shown that Beheaded Hill is most accurately and consistently shown the size I'm saying, with all of the consistent and multitude of scans that show the take on Okumin trees and what it means for like the size of an Okumin tree, and how Beheaded Hill scales to that, where there's the Okumin trees that are clustered together at a 3. The only ones that are that size are the large ones, and that's the ones that we see next to Beheaded Hill. That just makes it more accurate and consistent, and all the other scans showing their size. To say that it's more accurate and more consistent to take it at a smaller size, I feel is to ignore consistency, honestly. And given the actual scaling of it, yeah, basically Yusuke just completely outscales. The scaling Yu Hakusho is superior, such that he can easily just aura vape with aura that is absolutely way more massive, that it doesn't even matter about the clones. Even without the aura, just off of what Sensui busted with the air pressure, Yusuke again isn't just 25 times stronger, but like a 2 times multiple increase to the 25th power times stronger. And the air pressure alone would just blow away Naruto and his clones. So for that reason, Yusuke, kind of like Superman restricting himself to no powers, would absolutely destroy, a building level character who has extra powers. Yusuke just wins. He just stomps. And that's how I take it.
Okay, well, good debate. It was a long one.
Yeah, sorry, man.
Yeah, it's okay.
Alright,
anything else you want to say before we head out?
No, well, I guess, you know what? Yeah, thanks for having the debate with me. It was really cool. Was fun. Sorry it took so long, but hopefully you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And, yeah, have a good day, man.
Okay, yeah, you too.
Alright, ciao.